Chicago. They've been nice enough to open up their shop for us today so I can get my groove on with the metabolic efficiency test. So Dina, tell us a little bit about what I'm going to be doing today.
Yeah, so today we're going to be conducting a submaximal treadmill test.
Yes, I don't have to go to Max.
I know. And so what we're going to look for, Tawnee, is how well your body is using your fat stores as an energy source versus your limited carbohydrate stores. And so we'll start you at a slower pace and gradually increase that pace every 5 minutes to get close to your MAF or maybe beyond. See how well you use fat throughout, and I expect a good result based on the nutrition that you've shared with me, your daily nutrition.
Yeah, nutrition is good. The other thing is, though, I haven't been training consistently for months now. I'm just getting back into it. My MAF pace right now is about at 8:15 to 8:30. Plus, I'm at altitude. Plus, I traveled. So we'll see how things go. You know, and just have fun with it, of course.
Right.
And so you work with Bob Siebehar and as part of Fuel Formance, which I'm sure most people out there know of Bob at this point. He kind of coined metabolic efficiency.
He did, yeah.
Several, like, what, about 10 years ago or so?
Just about.
Yeah, and you've been with him since 2010. So you've done plenty of these tests.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. It's been great to see the different kinds of athletes that come in, those that are more carb dependent versus the fat adapted athletes, and be able to help them with structuring not only changes in their daily nutrition to support better fat utilization, but with race day fueling, being able to look at data and use that as a foundation for setting plans.
So what do you see more? People who are more fat adapted already when they come in, or more people that are carb burners, sugar burners?
You know, it might be 75-25 as far as the carboholics versus the fat adapted athletes. But we've had recently a number of ultra runners come in who are extremely fat adapted.
You gotta be, right?
Yeah,
you gotta be.
But I'd say more often the triathletes or the carboholics or the carb dependent.
We're suckers for buying all that sports nutrition and gobbling it down 24/7, right?
Yeah.
So tell me real quickly what the difference between this test is too versus your traditional VO2 max test. Obviously you said it's sub-max, where VO2 max is going to be max. So a little bit difference in the protocol too.
Yeah, I mean, we want to start at an easy, comfortable pace or on the bike, you know, a lower power output setting, and really get to that point, depending again on the individual athlete. It depends where we start.
It depends always.
And so we want to, hopefully the goal is to see that athlete using fats right from the get-go at an easy pace. Another difference is 4 to 5 minute stages versus 1 minute stages with VO2. But you know, we need to get the body within each stage just adjusted to that different pace or power setting, because your energy change obviously will be affected by that pace. So the test itself goes between 30-45 minutes on average.
Okay. Where VO2 max test is designed to have you at max before 20 minutes ideally.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, and we never really get to that level unless an athlete's very gung-ho and wants to push it.
Yeah. And as far as metabolic efficiency tests go, is there a standard protocol, or do you guys you and Bob, do you do it slightly different versus another company out there that's maybe doing the same?
That's a good question. We have developed one set protocol for this type of test you're doing today. And I actually have seen a number of labs not follow the exact same protocol, and unfortunately the data given to the athlete is not quite accurate. It could be shorter stages, 2-minute stages. It's not enough time for your body to get a representation of what your body is doing as far as its fat stores. And then just as far as the data presented to the athlete, not quite telling the whole picture. The other side of that is what it means for daily nutrition.
Right.
Because that's a huge influence here on what we're going to see. And so some of the labs just aren't trained in knowing how to affect nutrition to positively affect the results of your test.
So what we're looking for today then is going to be, most of you guys have probably seen this crossover, this graph where you start at a primarily fat burning phase, and then you have that X where you cross over to then burning more primarily glycogen. So show us a little example of what that is going to probably look like.
In my chicken scratch here. So just a rough representation, starting at a nice comfortable pace. For you, I think we'll start around a 9:30.
So about a minute slower than math-ish or so.
Yeah, we'll see how you feel there. And then every 5 minutes increase by, I think, 3.3 miles per hour on the treadmill at a 1% grade. And hopefully, you know, we just see this nice steady decline in fat utilization, getting you up to faster paces, perhaps towards your MAP range, where we'll see that switch over to where you begin using more of your stored glycogen as an energy source. And then beyond this, I mean, this is really what we're looking for. So beyond here, it's kind of up to you how you feel. We can go 1 or 2 stages typically.
Okay. And then also, how much would you say, you know, if you're looking at pace, heart rate, you know, your RER, all that kind of stuff, if you're having like a good diet already, is your heart rate going to be on the lower end before you, like at a more of a fat burning state?
It's very dependent too on the type of diet. Sometimes the higher fat diets, you can have higher heart rates during these tests. The fitness level, so if you aren't aerobically conditioned, you might have a higher heart rate.
Okay, so it's not just about heart rate then. We're looking at more of that metabolism. I don't know why I'm having trouble saying that today. Okay, cool. And then, let's see. Oh, the other one thing I wanted to mention is that I did have to be fasted for 12 hours going into this, and that's pretty crucial.
That is, and that's another point. Some of the other performance centers will not have the athlete fast. And so they may have a big bagel, banana, juice breakfast.
Which I'm sure a lot of people think that's the right thing to do if you're going to be working at hard.
Yeah, exactly. But unfortunately, when you put all of that carbohydrate in your body has to digest that carbohydrate. And so we will see the flip side here where it's going to be 75% carb from the beginning and maybe not even get to fat utilization because the body's working to digest on the carbs. So being fasted is a great snapshot of where you are right now and very telling of your daily nutrition patterns.
Good. Cool. Let's go ahead and get this done.
Yeah, I'm ready. Try not to manhandle you.
It's fine. I used to work in a lab that did these things.
Yeah. So, you can put it in. Yeah. That whole thing goes in the mouth. If you get like a dry mouth, your tongue on the roof.
When Tawnee used to test people for it, she always like take pictures and like you see before and after, just like
Sorry, Tawnee. Woohoo! All right, I'm start here, Tawnee, and then we'll adjust based on what we're seeing.
Warm-up period is Tawnee is using about 60% of her energy from her fat stores versus 40% of carbohydrate. And the numbers vary a bit. There's data every 15 seconds being recorded. But so you can see she's still warming up a little bit, which is why we do some averages of each 5-minute stage. We're going to do some averages of her calorie expenditure and her fat utilization. So right now she's running at a 9:30 minute per mile pace, and we're going to go for another 4 minutes or so and then begin increasing that pace to see how her fat and carb utilization changes. So we're about 7 minutes into the warm-up here. We're going to do about another 3 minutes before we begin increasing her pace. See how her internal substrate use changes. So in this first stage, she was averaging 66% of her energy from fat, 34% of her energy from her stored glycogen, or stored form of carbohydrate. And that was at a 9:31 pace.
All right, we are now in the back of Competitive Edge, and I did my metabolic efficiency test, and I don't know if it was the altitude or what, but I felt like crap. It was all right. I mean, my paces were, not like anything too out of the ordinary, but...
Right. It could be partly the altitude, or if you didn't sleep as well. Sometimes hydration can affect how you feel, but we saw that you did have a crossover point or a metabolic efficiency point that was indeed near your MAF, at least pace zone.
Yeah.
So when we were looking at Tawnee's results, we started her at a 9:30 minute per mile pace just to get her warmed up, loosened up a bit, and then gradually increased every 5 minutes by 0.3 miles per hour. And we could see that in the first 4 stages, so 20 minutes, 25 minutes worth of running, increasing your pace from 9:30 to 8:20, you were still over 60%.
Fat burning,
which is phenomenal.
Is that good?
That's great.
Okay.
Yeah. The goal, especially given that you just started training, right? Because now you've got more base building to come, and so we would expect, even at your, let's say, 9 minute per mile pace, we would expect your fat utilization to increase. So not only will we, I assume,
let's see if I can turn this around so we can get this on the camera too.
Yeah.
So you guys can see my results here. I'm not afraid. I'm willing to expose myself for you.
But I would predict, Tawny, if we were to do this, let's say, in 2 months, this area under the curve would be greater.
Yeah.
So you would be burning more fat at these lower intensities. And we might expect then this point to move to the right, which is the goal.
I mean, looking at one of these charts, obviously the idea is you want to extend this crossover point as far over as possible. And for me, it looks like it did happen at a pace that was faster than my current MAF, a 7:53 pace.
Exactly.
So that means when I'm running MAF, I'm still definitely mostly fat burning right now.
You can be confident in it.
Yeah, that's
we know
good
the
to know.
numbers now.
And then looking at some of these other data points too. So like you see the RER here, I'm definitely below 0.85 up until around that 8:20 or 8 pace. And then I cross over, and then it starts to go downhill from there.
But, there's a lot of data we can extrapolate from the results as far as planning your nutrition for training in your upcoming racing.
Let's take just not me for an example. Let's look at some of these other charts that you were showing me of some people that you worked with.
Yeah.
And this one guy especially had some fabulous, really, really great results after he came and got one of these tests done and what he was able to change.
Yes. Oh,
so this guy here came, this is before, so tell us a little bit about, so you can obviously see there's no crossover point you're seeing here.
Yeah.
However, also notice, sorry, I don't mean, the blue line is above the red line. Okay, so you take it now.
So this guy is in his 30s, and he's a top age group triathlete for 70.3, actually all distances for that matter. So he came to us in February of last year and did a test. The blue line represents his utilization of carbohydrate, and red is his fat utilization. So there was no crossover point. We started him on the bike at 120 watts, increased by 20 watts every 5 minutes. He had a race 3 months out from this, a 70.3 Ironman Texas.
Yeah.
His goal was to be able to compete at around 200 watts, is what he was thinking. But we could see from the data, this validated or proved that his nutrition, daily nutrition, not just his training, but his daily nutrition was fairly high in carbs.
He's a sugar burner.
Sugar burner, more carb dependent. And so if he hadn't made any changes at this point, we know he would have had to fuel a lot, more frequently, use a lot more simple sugars, and risk some of the downsides.
Of course. And just the long-term health ramifications that we talk about on the podcast all the time.
Exactly.
So, for example, you told me that he was having mostly like fruit smoothies and stuff for breakfast, which a lot of people think that that's healthy because it's fruit and it's a smoothie and that equals healthy. But in this case, it's just promoting that sugar burning.
Exactly. Every single meal needs to be transformed to keep blood sugar levels stable so that we're not getting insulin spikes and turning down that ability for the cells, the mitochondria, to build those enzymes
Yeah.
to enhance fat burning.
Yeah. Okay.
So
now the fun part.
This was eye-opening for him. And so we did a little intervention.
Nutritional intervention. How scary does that sound?
And so what I did with him is look at every single meal, and we tried to balance his carbs better with protein and fats, because he was so skewed in that carbohydrate addiction, I guess. So we had about 2 months here. This is 2 months later. He retested, and we did the exact same starting watts, 120 watts, 5-minute stages. And compared to this,
Look at that.
see the
We
difference.
now have an actual crossover point, and it's at about 180 watts, which is just below
Pretty
what he
close.
wanted to be at Ironman.
Yep.
So that's still a good place to be, right? So you're,
Yeah.
I mean, because that means you're still going to obviously need to take in nutrition on the bike, but you're not going to be tapping into those glycogen stores as quickly.
Right, we're preserving those
Yeah.
stores for when we really need it. Which
Yeah.
for him, he's a top runner. I mean, he's a collegiate runner, so we knew he was going to push quite a bit on the run. So setting him up on the bike well with his nutrition and not overfeeding, but still having confidence that he would be able to utilize fats to some degree much better than burning out his glycogen stores fast.
Well, and the best part of the story is he ended up getting 4th in his age group and qualifying for Kona.
Yep, he
Woo!
competed in Kona, so
So-
it's a
and
great story.
Did he, after he qualified and everything, did he come back to you guys say that was the missing link in making it happen?
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I
Yeah.
mean, you can train all you want, but if your metabolism isn't doing the right thing, you're never going to be able to get to that next level. It's not that you're going to be bad,
Right.
but you just might not be able to get to where you potentially could be.
Exactly. And we say, my colleague and I, Bob, say that nutrition, your daily nutrition, plays upwards of 75% of an influence on what we see and things like
It's
this.
huge. 75% of your nutrition is going to affect how you react to exercise.
And a lot of triathletes think about what their training nutrition's like, or what they eat right after, right before, instead of thinking about the whole day, not just what is around your training sessions.
Right. Absolutely.
And I mean, this validates, because he did honor his aerobic zone a little bit for, a little bit better.
This is yours.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Do you want to share yours?
So, but yeah, it's really telling of what daily nutrition impact can be.
Well, let's talk,
Yeah.
if you don't mind, can we
I
take a
don't
look? Okay, so
mind, no.
you're actually training for Leadville this year.
I'm
So you're training for
Leadville.
ultra endurance running. So obviously you're not going to be doing like crazy paces or anything. So your test here, you don't have a crossover point, but in a good sense.
In a good sense.
Yeah. So
yeah.
your red line's on top, which means up until an 8:49 pace, you were still primarily fat
I
burning.
was. And so my daily nutrition is fairly low-ish in carbohydrate,
Yeah.
higher in protein and quality fats. And I just petered out because physically I couldn't keep going.
40-minute test.
But I'm, about 2 months in.
Yeah, you're just starting. This is in
so,
January, so.
Yeah, so this is, an ideal too, especially for ultra running, not having to take 250 calories per hour and then experience any of that gastrointestinal distress.
Yeah, that's super
So-
interesting. Okay, there was another thing that you had on here, the percentage of caloric intake. What was that one?
Oh yeah, and so that.
We haven't made the graph yet, so we
I
don't need to
haven't
show you
yet.
guys, but tell us a little bit about this concept.
Yeah, this is great. So the more metabolically efficient you are, the fewer carbohydrates you typically need to consume during your training and racing, because you're using fat as a fuel source. So from the data we've collected from the numerous athletes we've tested, and even on our own selves, we've been able to see that in the range of 10 to 30% of your carb calories you're burning would be your sweet spot for planning your training nutrition.
Okay.
So for example, standard sport nutrition guidelines are 60 to 90 grams,
Right.
or 240 to
Calories.
300,
Yeah.
60 calories per hour, independent of who you are, your training, and so forth. But we can see, having one of these tests done, what your actual carbohydrate expenditure is in that fat utilization. And so if we see that you are more fat adapted, we can take the flip side, take your carbohydrate use and take a small percentage of that and know you're going to be using fat as a fuel source. But you may need to supply some calories. However, it's far different from standard nutrition,
What's on the labels
sport
and
nutrition
everything.
guidelines are saying. So
So
for
does
you,
does that even apply to someone who's really working at their high end, say, elite marathon runner, or someone at the very end of Kona where it's just like you're gonna need anything at that point, and that's obviously when people are going to Coke a lot and stuff.
yeah.
Does it apply to those cases too?
It does. It's just that most triathletes tend to not trust in,
Yeah.
they lose that confidence
Okay.
because they're tired, or, they mistake fatigue for bonking, or maybe it's the other way around, but they think they're bonking when it's actually just muscle fatigue.
Right.
So, yeah, that's sort of independent, or dependent on the type of athlete you're working with.
Interesting. Okay, what else did you want to share? Oh, so really, I mean, if I were to go redo this test at sea level right now, which I'm going to do now because I'm very curious to see what I'd be differently. What role do you think altitude or travel or fatigue? Like, I guess the point is to not only with myself, but when someone is coming to get these tests done, looking at those external factors, what their training week has been like. Do you recommend it being a mellow week? And you told me not to work out the day before, which I was like, fine, I don't mind.
Yeah, definitely resting 1 to 2 days before. Hydration's important. I think for you, your heart rate was a bit higher.
It was very high. It felt high.
Yeah, so it'll be good to see. Other than that, I mean, I think, Tawnee, you should tell the listeners and viewers what your daily nutrition's like.
Okay, so we talked about this in the beginning, how part of the information questionnaire thing that you fill out before they ask you what your diet is before. And so for me right now, especially, I'm not doing super big volume at all, so I'm normally every morning having 2 to 3 eggs with a full or half avocado, depending on how big it is, and veggies sauteed in coconut oil or butter, grass-fed butter. And then for a snack, I sometimes don't even have a snack, but if I do, I'll have something like nuts or almond butter or coconut shreds, unsweetened, of course. And then lunch is pretty much standard, 1 or 2 things every single day. And thankfully I work from home, so I am able to kind of manage this a little bit better, but it's kind of like a big salad of like grilled vegetables depending on what I have in my fridge from the farmer's market that week, and it always changes. It's not really the same thing. Sardines, of course, and avocado, which that's something I took from a sports nutrition podcast when Ben first started talking about it. I had never had sardines before doing this podcast, so I thank Endurance Planet for introducing me to that.
Yeah.
And then lately, now that I have a juicer, I've been doing a lot of juicing too, and sometimes I'll make such a big juice that will fill me up for lunch too. And you can make the argument that that's higher in sugar and carbs and everything, but I think the nutrient density and how rich it is in enzymes and all that, I mean, I feel direct, awesome effect every time I drink a juice. And I try not to drink them 24/7, but I think having that incorporated into the routine, would you feel that would mess up your fat burning or fat adaptation?
I mean, if you are putting a lot of fruits.
I don't, no.
Okay,
I put like a quarter Fuji apple for sweetness, and that's about it. The rest is like veggies, like
not
beets.
Not a huge impact.
Okay.
Because the rest of your meals, you are keeping that ratio of carbohydrate to protein very even.
Yeah.
And you're loading up with great healthy fats, which definitely play a role here in keeping blood sugar stable, insulin levels stable.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. I had to be 12 hours fasted going into this race this morning, and thankfully we were able to do it relatively early. But even that said, I wasn't ravenously hungry.
Yeah.
I missed having coffee this morning, but that's about it.
And I can tell when I've got a carbaholic in here, the mood is grouchy, and I better not have chit chat and let's get this test going. So definitely the more fat adapted it impacts the mood and that feeling of hunger or ravenous feeling. So it's great. I mean, your nutrition is...
Yeah, the afternoon, it's sometimes a snack, sometimes nothing, because I won't even be hungry. I work hard on eating based on if I'm hungry or not, rather than mindless eating.
Bravo.
And then dinner is always either wild fish, organic free-range chicken, or grass-fed beef of some kind, or some variation within those parameters, and then another round of vegetables, and Yeah, we don't really do.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, traditionally people are so centered on like what's the carb or the starch going to be, and that's not even like a topic of conversation in our household. My boyfriend loves me for that. And then dessert, though, I will say, or after dinner, I pretty much have dark chocolate every single night, like literally every single night.
But again, that's not a high sugar.
No, I have
right?
85%
So,
dark chocolate, organic. I will have a glass of wine on probably 5 nights a week or so, but you know, try to keep that in check as well. And the other dessert that I will indulge on, I've been making these raw vegan cheesecakes.
Oh yeah,
and
I saw that in your blog.
They're pretty amazing.
They look good.
When they're in the house, they're eaten. So, yeah, but that's pretty much normal for me. Would you suggest any changes?
I know, it's hard with you. I mean, I think through the next couple months, keeping this pattern you have going, and if you do opt to have something starchy like sweet potato or
yeah, which is on bigger days, like if I know I'm going to be putting in a minimum of 3 hours, I will think about that. That said, that's the times too where I'll also maybe still have the same breakfast, but then just bring like a bonk breaker or scratch to have with me on that long ride or effort.
Okay.
What do you think?
That's the goal, is to periodize your nutrition so that we put a little extra carbohydrate around your long training sessions, or if you have higher intensity, higher quality training sessions, to make sure you're getting what you need in terms of that extra carbohydrate. But we can also see from this data now that you are pretty darn efficient from the get-go, starting
even
the
from a
season.
baseline,
So we know that you don't necessarily need to carbon load for any particular training sessions, but perhaps a little bit for certain durations. Other than that, I'd say, you know, you just get into your training session or season a little bit more and keep most of these patterns are perfect.
Yeah,
with
on the right
those
track, I
fats
guess.
and proteins,
Yeah, so honestly, me being kind of a data geek and just competitive within my own head too, knowing that felt a lot harder than it should have, especially compared to a treadmill run I just did a few days ago. I want to go do this same test at sea level, being that I live at sea level. We're at about a mile high right now. Yeah. Which isn't anything too insane. I mean, I slept last night at Lucha's house at 8,200 feet. But yeah, doing it at sea level where my body's more acclimatized to right now and where I'm comfortable at, to see what difference is. And then if that's, I'm literally want to make an appointment ASAP just to see what the differences are right there. Even at still in the baseline. Yeah, without the travel. I was on a plane all day yesterday. So cool.
I'd call this a big success.
Thank you. I appreciate
you've got
that.
a great start to your 2014.
Yeah, and if you guys have any questions on metabolic efficiency, any follow-ups that you want to hear, just ask us on our Facebook page. But honestly, I would say that every athlete out there should get one of these done. If you know, no matter what your goals are, it's just going to give you more window inside in achieving, you know, health and performance, all of it, and you're able to kind of plan accordingly. Know what you need to change. Know if you're on the right track. That was the other thing that you mentioned, I don't want to go without saying, is that you will even have people come in with their predicted race pace, whether on the bike or the run, because you can do this on the bike as well, and then just have them run or ride at steady state at their predicted race pace to see if that's a legitimate effort for them, see what happens in their metabolism.
Exactly, because that will help us with their race day fueling plan. So if we know they're still going to be, you know, maybe around this 50-50, or even for ultra runners, we know that if they average whatever pace, they're going to be in fat burning mode. We can supply that nutrition plan for race day and have confidence because we've got the data to support it.
Cool. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Dina. It's been a super fun morning. What a way to kick off my trip to Colorado.
She rocks.